Harkin? Isn't that one of George W. Bush's companies?
The man with a 20% stake in the largest money laundering operation the world has ever seen saved our president's business career. Khalid bin Mahfouz has also been implicated as one of many very prominent Saudis who has funneled money to Osama bin Laden. That would make President Bush someone who has done business with a known terrorist! Bin Mahfouz. Regardless, the drug trade is going to escalate in the 1980s. And why wouldn't it? Reagan is your president, and Bush is your VP. Okay, the greatest drug smuggler in the history of drug smuggling was a guy named Barry Seal. Barry Seal, okay? He was an admitted CIA agent, okay? He was contracted at least as back as like the early 60s. In the early 60s, Barry Seal is living in New Orleans, where he joins a Civil Air Patrol unit, whose captain is an eccentric fellow by the name of David Ferry.
Joe Pesci from JFK?
Ferry was, by all indications, a conspirator in the JFK assassination. And another member of the Civil Air Patrol unit is Lee Harvey Oswald.
So the drug trade is somehow tied to the JFK assassination?
Seemingly. But the connections don't stop there. Barry Seal was a pilot, a great pilot by all accounts. Now everyone assumes that David Ferry was a getaway pilot for the assassins in Dallas, so it's possible to presume that Barry Seal was one as well.
In late 1963, Seal is seen in a picture with Frank Sturgis and Felix Rodriguez.
Sturgis was indicted and convicted as one of the 5 Watergate burglars. He testified in court that his handler on that assignment was E. Howard Hunt. Hunt, you remember, worked in the Nixon White House. Now, the Rockefeller Commission, investigating illegal acts by the CIA in the 70s, regarded both Hunt and Frank Sturgis as possible conspirators in the JFK assassination.
What is Barry Seal doing in a photograph with a possible JFK assassin?
But it's the other man in the Seal photograph who has a more ominous distinction. Felix Rodriguez was a Cuban refugee. In the late 50s, he began working with the CIA to recruit more refugees for an invasion of Cuba. This was done under the direction of the CIA agent Ted Shackley. Incidentally, Ted Shackley also worked the Far East drug trade with Richard Secord in the early 50s. Felix Rodriguez also figures into the assassination of Bolivian President Che Guevara in 1967. So where is Barry Seal in all of this? He's in New Orleans until at least 1968, when he takes over for the late David Ferry as captain of the Civil Air Patrol. Now, in the early 70s, Barry Seal is running cocaine through New Orleans. He's running it on planes later identified to be former Air America planes.
Planes used by the CIA in the 50s and 60s to ship heroin from the Far East.
When the Medellin cartel is founded, Seal immediately hooks up with their operation. By 1981, he is trafficking in more drugs than anyone in the history of this country. And it is around this time that Barry Seal moves his operation from New Orleans to Mena, Arkansas.
And where is that?
About 180 miles from Little Rock. A small little out-of-the-way mountain town. A small little out-of-the-way mountain town that just so happens to have a major U.S. airport. The Mena Intermountain Municipal Airport. From at least 1981 to 1986, this airport is ground zero for all illegal narcotics activity in the United States. You see, Barry Seal, he began flying his drugs into this airport, most likely with the knowledge of then-President Reagan and the next 2 presidents, Bush and Clinton.
How does he get away with it?
He only gets away with it for a little while. It is suspected that Seal traffics in nearly $5 billion worth of cocaine in this 5-year period. The U.S. Attorney in Arkansas at this time, Asa Hutchinson, never opens an investigation, even though FBI informants, MENA employees, and the Arkansas State Police have all told him that this illegal drug trafficking has been occurring.
Ironically, Hutchinson went on to head the DEA and is now the Undersecretary for Border Transportation and Security in the Department of Homeland Security.
So Seal is virtually untouchable for this period. Even though the FBI and the DEA have all opened up investigations into his operation, he remains a contract agent with the CIA. But with overwhelming evidence of drug trafficking mounting against him, he finally turned states in 1985. He testifies in several trials against Medellin traffickers. And this compromises the entire CIA operation. I mean, Barry Seal isn't only running drugs for the cartel, he's also involved in the drugs for arms trade in Nicaragua. The DEA even places him in a sting to photograph Contras loading cocaine onto an airplane in Nicaragua. And this pisses the CIA off, but good! Seal's next mission is to trick Pablo Escobar and the Ochoa brothers into coming to a neutral third-party country where they will be extradited. I mean, he's about to take down the entire Medellin cartel. But then news of Seal's cooperation with the DEA became leaked in the national media. He has to be called back in midair from his task to meet with the Ochoa brothers and Pablo Escobar. And who is responsible for this press leak? Admittedly, it is none other than Oliver North, the primary figurehead in the Iran-Contra scandal. Barry Seal is later gunned down in Baton Rouge, assassinated by the Medellin cartel. It is rumored that on his dead body is the personal private phone number of George H.W. Bush. The MENA operation, it's already in jeopardy, but it becomes a major problem when one of Seal's former planes is shot down by Sandinistas later on in 1986. The only survivor of the crash is a man named Eugene Hassenfuss, and he claims he is running cocaine for the CIA. The plane can be tracked back to MENA, so for the time being, the MENA operation is close to being exposed. No president has ever spoken directly about the events in Mena, Arkansas. However, Governor Clinton, just when he was rising from obscurity to become president, made his only public comments about the massive drug operation being conducted right in his own backyard.
In 1991, Clinton referred to the Arkansas State Police investigation of Mena and the drug trafficking thereof as having linkages to the federal government. It includes all kinds of questions whether he, meaning Seal, had any links to the CIA, and if that backed into the Iran-Contra deal.
The war on drugs? It's just a war against the inner cities. The wealthy line their pockets with all the illegal drug money, drugs that they bring into the country themselves, and they peddle it off to the poor people in the ghettos. In the 1980s, the number of Americans in prisons doubled from 500,000 to 1 million. Most of these convicts are drug offenders. And from 85 to 88 alone, prosecutions for white drug offenders dropped 15%, while it rose 88% for blacks.
Even though it is estimated at this time that 80% of all drug users are white.
Now, ironically, one of the security companies linked to the CIA, Wackenhut Corporation, owns and maintains its own private prisons here in the U.S. It is another form of government-sponsored terrorism. Poverty, violence, death, these all stem from drug abuse. Think about prohibition. The government lifted the ban on alcohol because the social ills of alcohol abuse weren't nearly as bad as the violence that came along with the criminal importation of alcohol. So why not legalize all drugs? Surely there would be more drug addiction, more drug-related death, but there would be far less violence associated with the illegal sale of narcotics. And which is the lesser of two evils? The CIA has destroyed the inner cities of this country, destroyed millions of lives at a profit. I'll give you one guess as to the primary bank used for laundering the money from the global drug trade.
The BCCI.
And then there's AIG. AIG mans its own fleet of aircraft.
AIG owns and maintains over 400 airplanes.
Any number of these planes could be used for the transfer of narcotics. And in 1987, the Arkansas Development Financial Agency collaborated with AIG to found Kroll Reinsurance, named after Carlos Leder's wife, the same year Leder was extradited. The formation of this company has never been filed with the SEC. There's no known paperwork on it at all.
And Arkansas was where Seal was flying in his drugs.
Yes, as a CIA operation, with Bill Clinton as governor of Arkansas. During the heyday of the BCCI, with Noriega still in power in Panama, and with John Gotti heading the New York Mafia, where more drugs end up than anywhere in the world.
This truly is a vast conspiracy.
You could say that. And AIG's founder is a well-known CIA operative, C.V. Starr, and one of AIG's current directors is the son of CIA founder Frank Wisner.
Now, the chairman and CEO of AIG is a man named Maurice Hank Greenberg.